So we are
There's someone
beginning.
that's connected to audio.
Carol, what were you saying?
We have someone that's connecting to audio.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, Robert often does it via two different devices connecting.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. This is the uncounted October 23rd, fourth Wednesday public speaker meeting of East Bay Gray Panthers. I see we have a good contingent of our regulars. Today is ballot day when we review. We usually have an election-focused meeting or two in the fall, and we are also electing board members who have either finished their 2-year term and would like to continue or step down. And I just wanted, and we also have 2 new candidates for the board that the current board would like to present to you. So I'm just going to say that now, that anyone who, I'm running again. Maybe we can just real briefly do this, and then we'll finish up at the end, because sometimes our people who are present are very different, but I want to say thank you. So, Carol, do you have the slate in front of you? Perhaps not.
No, I don't.
So I'll just do this. Hi, I'm Betsy. I'm co-convener currently, and I would like to serve on the board for another 2-year term. Who's next?
Hi, I'm Rains, also somehow signing up for another 2 years.
There were threats of otherwise.
If
And I'm
elected.
Carol Crooks. I'm running for another 2 years.
Helen?
What's the name of your position, Carol?
I'm co-convener.
Oh, right. Thanks.
Oh, Helen, are you up for re-election? I'm sorry, all of a sudden I'm blanking, but
I believe you told me that I was. So okay. I'm Helen Walsh. I'm wanting to serve another 2 years on the board. I'm a white woman with freckles, long brown curly unruly hair with glasses.
Thank you. Robert is our treasurer currently.
Yeah. Yes, I'll serve for another 2 years.
Thank you. I know we're getting our guests on, so
we're moving fast. Let's just keep going.
Yeah. We also have 2 new candidates for the board. That would be Miss Cecilia Cunningham and Christy Martin. So who would like to just say a few words about themselves and why they're running, why they'd like to serve on the board? Christy?
I'll start.
And then Miss Cunningham.
So I am the social media technology manager for the Chris Kindness Award. So I feel like I've been hired to be something rather than do something, to be kind and to recognize kindness, and also to be empathetic when people are not able to always be able to be kind. And then I'm researching at UC Berkeley the impact of financial decision-making on neurological and psychiatric health. And so hopefully this connection with the Gray Panthers will allow for community outreach for the research and teaching that I do here at UC Berkeley.
Thank you, Christy. And then
I'm Miss Cecilia Cunningham. I am a part of many organizations, and I would love to be on the board here at East Bay Gray Panthers, because I feel I can be a great success. And I would love to see our Gray Panther continue to grow, because that's what it's all about, membership, because we need membership in order for us to continue to flow. And I thank you.
Thank you, Miss Cecilia.
Miss Cecilia, is there a way to see your vision of your face on the screen? Can you give us that?
She has a phone connection.
Oh, never mind.
Adrian, oh, she has no,
She's working on
Uh,
reconnecting.
Yeah,
okay. Are you
What?
in
You,
communication?
you both said it at the same time. What, you said what?
Adrian is going to reconnect so she can
Oh,
have sound. Hallie, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say that Miss Cecilia was at the live meeting we had at Halacio's. Is that the name of it?
yes.
Yeah. And she was there. She's also been a longtime member of Cara and has done a phenomenal job with everything she's ever done.
Yes.
Thank you, Hallie.
And I did want to say that Christy is affiliated with the Center for Research on Education in Aging, CREA, which is kind of fertile ground because Christy's one of the few active researchers affiliated with that little unit on campus. And I know myself, I see promise for us to infiltrate in some way. We'll never know. It's an opportunity. So we're rather informal this time about asking people to after our speakers we'll have time for open nominations if there are any from the floor. Otherwise, if you accept this roster of candidates, then we'll be naming them again and then asking people to vote by contacting Reigns or by indicating support by chat. So we'll handle that at the end. So
I'll just say then, if anybody has to leave early, please send me a message in chat if you support the slate. That'll help us. And that's for current members who have paid in the last year. And you can always renew your membership at eastbaygraypanthers.org. Let me know if you need to check your status.
And Robert also accepts checks and cash. So thank you all. We have about half of our dues paying voting members here today. So not everyone can make it on Wednesdays, but they've been notified. Okay, this is an exciting meeting in part because we have both a familiar speaker and some brand new speakers here. And I really want to thank Daisy Orem, who's here today, for helping arrange this discussion of ballot measures. The first set of speakers are going to talk about state ballot measures, and they are all part of our Gray Panther allies. I mean, really older sisters, older brothers, people with lobbyists on staff, including the great and fierce Jody Reed, who's I'm not sure if you're are back at being executive director or are a consultant, but you are the only person, you are the main force I've ever known in the last 5 years behind the California Alliance of Retired Americans, which is a great place for Gray Panthers to be part of. And 3 other Gray Panther chapters are members of CARA, along with our East Bay one. So we have let me just also introduce our guest speaker, Ki Yamamoto. Am I giving justice, or K?
Very close. It's K, like the letter.
K. All right, K. And we have a third speaker to address Prop 36, I believe. Kay is here for 35. Sani Siti, who perhaps will join us a little bit later. We were going to have a video. Jody, and we have the video lined up. It's about 15 minutes long. Shall we show it, or do you feel like we will show it and you can comment on it? What's your preference there? I wasn't expecting you this early.
I think just so people have context for this video, thanks for inviting Cara. And Daisy is, as you know, our Northern California organizer. So she staffs the Alameda County chapter of CARA, as well as the Contra Costa chapter of CARA. And you all are members of Cara because these Big Great Panthers is an affiliate. So that means all of you are members by being a member of the Great Panther. Great Panther. So if anybody ever wants to, we do a lot of communication during the year. We send car alerts out a couple times a year to advise folks on what's happening on some of our campaigns and how you can take action. We do forums all the time, usually on Fridays, and we do a whole host of other things. Our chapter meets right now, kind of like you do via Zoom, and several of you who are here are also part of the Alameda County chapter of Cara, known as a CAT. So it's good to see familiar faces as well as some new ones. And if you want to get on our list to get more regular updates, you just need to send us your contact information and you'll get it. So just briefly, Cara does not endorse candidates, but we do educate in key races. We're working on 5 congressional races right now, since so much of our Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security and older adult programs are federal and then trickle down, some of them into some of our state-based and local programs. So we do education on where candidates stand on the issues that we care about, but we don't endorse. However, on legislation and on ballot measures, we do take positions on the issues. And so we have a fairly lengthy process where we consider these ballot measures at our legislative committee. We often have people come and present the pros and or cons on some of these ballot measures. And our legislative committee, which is quite large and statewide, we are a statewide organization, makes recommendations. They vote on whether we should take a yes or no position, and they make those recommendations, or a no position in some cases. And then that goes to our board of directors to review and either adopt or make changes. We do some additional research on who the proponents and opponents are. So we're fully informed before we recommend then to our larger membership. There's 10 measures on the ballot this year. We have a recommendation on all but one because we couldn't come to a clear agreement on what position we should recommend. And that's Prop 34. And I can tell you about why later. 5 of the measures we did a video on. And so you're going to see that video on those 5 measures and our recommendations, and you'll hear from people as to why to support. In all 5 cases, these are all our yes on that measure. But we have recommendations on the others too, and you're going to hear from Kai. And I'm not sure who's coming from San Francisco Rising to talk about 2 others that we are recommending a no vote on. But those we don't have a video on. So, and then there's a couple others that there's 2 bond measures that are pretty self-explanatory that we're recommending a yes on. One is for education. One is for climate related improvements and protections. And then there's one that we don't have a recommendation on. So 2 no's, the rest are yes, except one where we have no recommendation. So you can watch the video and hear about some of these. And then after, I'm happy to answer questions about any of them. But you'll hear a lot more from Kai and SF Rising about two of the propositions that we also share their position on. So that's kind of the routine. So maybe if you want to show, I don't know who's showing the video.
I'm ready to
Rains is
play.
doing the
Okay.
tech. I just want to remind people that we have about an hour, up to an hour to include discussion and Q&A on state measures, but we also have time and for speaking about Berkeley, Oakland, and county measures. And I will just say that, Gray Panthers has endorsed and formally voted no on 2 measures here in Berkeley. And I'm hoping Julia Cato from the Berkeley Tenants Union, one of our members, will be able to speak to that as well. So we're going full blast on the state measures. Thank you, Jody. Take it away, Rains, when you're ready.
Here goes.
If I remove the pin, you should be larger. Can everyone, that's a very small,
I'll make it bigger.
okay. If anyone has trouble navigating, maybe add it in the chat.
With regard to what other information we will see, we have a person from
Assemblymember Chris Ward from
Real quickly before we start.
League of Women Voters is with us, and they go into these other areas that we're talking about.
Great, thanks. And if people can stay muted during the video, that'd be great. Thanks.
What?
Hi there, I'm Assemblymember Chris Ward from San Diego, and I'm also the Vice Chair of the California Legislative LGBTQ Caucus, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about Proposition 3 on the November ballot. So what Proposition 3 will do is enshrine marriage equality for all in our state constitution. And this is critically important because when you go back to the year 2008, regrettably, California voters actually passed Proposition 8, which limited who can get married in our state. Now, since 2015, thanks to a federal court case in Obergefell, we have had the right for marriage equality nationwide, and that superseded any language that Proposition 8 put in our Constitution. However, we are incredibly nervous about the activist right-wing Supreme Court that we saw that recently just overturned protections under Roe v. Wade. And we know through that language that they used in that decision that they want to overturn Obergefell. They want to roll back our rights and our freedoms to be able to get married. So the legislature this year put ACA 5 on the ballot, which has now become Proposition 3. It will take out and eliminate that horrible language that we had in Proposition 8 and replace it with an affirmative statement that ensures the right for everybody to get married to whom they love here in the state of California in our state constitution. So we hope that you agree, along with the clear supermajority of California voters, that it is the right thing to do to be able to support people in whom they love and vote yes on Proposition 3.
In 2022, voters in Berkeley were asked whether they wanted the city to borrow $650 million to fund affordable housing. 59% of the voters who turned out, an overwhelming majority, said yes. The measure failed. How is that possible, and how would a statewide proposition on this year's ballot change the electoral math behind borrowing?
Hi, I'm Ben Christopher, housing reporter with Cal Matters, and this is Prop 5 in a minute.
Back in the 1970s, Californians voted to make it much harder for local governments to raise taxes or borrow money. Ever since then, whenever a city or county wants to go into debt, they have to get permission from the voters. Not only that, in most cases, they have to win the support of at least 2/3 of voters to win. That's why the bond in Berkeley failed, even though it got 59% of the vote. Prop 5 would reduce the threshold for bonds that fund affordable housing and the whole list of public infrastructure projects. The new cutoff, 55%. Supporters say the current system makes it way too hard for local governments to fund important projects, including affordable housing. They also argue that letting a small minority override the wishes of the majority is just undemocratic. Opponents say the choice to go into debt should be made only when there's a broad agreement across the community, especially since bonds tend to get paid back through higher taxes on property owners. So, vote yes if you want to make it easier for local governments to borrow to fund affordable housing and other infrastructure. Vote no if you want to keep things the way they are.
To learn more about everything on your 2024 ballot, go to calmatters.org. For Cal Matters, this is Ben Christopher.
Hi, I'm Cecilia Aguiar Curry. I represent the 4th Assembly District, which includes Napa, Yolo, Colusa, and Lake Counties and parts of Sonoma. I want to talk to you about Proposition 5 and why your support in November is so important. You know, before I served in the Assembly, I worked in local government. I was a planning commissioner, a city council member, a mayor, and I also served on regional water projects, housing projects, and transportation agencies. So I know firsthand how hard it is to get local projects done. It takes a partnership between folks at the local level, like yourselves, your communities, and where you have lived and raised your families, and the local leaders you elect to help develop and plan and enrich the towns and communities that you live in. So now more than ever, our local communities are struggling. They cannot afford new infrastructure or cannot afford affordable housing projects. They can't afford to get flood protection or to build a new fire station. And the need is in every single community. Every single community is different, which is why we need to return the power to local governments. Proposition 5 is about local jobs. It's about local investment. It's about local control and local accountability. It simply gives you, the voter, an opportunity to weigh in on the local priorities that are meaningful to your community. Because no one knows best, no one, what the needs are in your community. So whether it's a new library or it's a new fire station or hospital, affordable senior or veteran housing or other critical infrastructure projects, Prop 5 is the tool that will help revive our communities, the way each community decides. So more importantly, Prop 5 is about voter protection. It is crafted to keep local governments accountable, transparent, and fiscally responsible to their constituents. And Prop 5's initiative requires a 55% supermajority for passage. So I cannot stress how critical your support is in November. Thank you for taking the time to educate yourselves about this ballot measure. And remember, Prop 5 will help your community thrive. Thank you very much. Don't forget to vote for Prop 5.
Hello, California. Today, we're discussing a crucial and transformative measure on the upcoming ballot, Proposition 6. This initiative aims to end involuntary servitude in our state once and for all. Involuntary servitude is slavery, plain and simple. It's a practice that has no place in a just and modern society. Yet remnants of this archaic system still persist in California. Involuntary servitude refers to situations where people are forced to work against their will, under the threat of punishment. It's a form of modern-day slavery that strips people of their basic human rights and dignity.
And I think that we all can agree that consent is something that's sacred. You know, it's something that we should really fight and defend, you know. And I think that when it comes to incarcerated people, for whatever reason, we've left this population vulnerable to not having that right to consent. And it's kind of like, well, once you're incarcerated, you know, you lose that right, and you get to just, you know, be forced into whatever the state deems is necessary. When I don't think that that's, you know, that's right, that's just, or that, again, aligns with California's value.
Involuntary servitude is another word for slavery. You know, not, I guess, you know, they can dress it up, you know, but, you know, this pig still got lipstick, but it's still a pig. You know, and to the most part, the fight for California, because the fight for California It's only part of the fight. And what we think that's happening in California that makes us really distinct is we're trying to not eliminate it just in the Constitution. We're trying to fight to change the practice of slavery.
Currently, our state constitution allows involuntary servitude as punishment for crime. This loophole has been used to exploit and mistreat incarcerated people, perpetuating a cycle of injustice and inequality. Proposition 6 will amend our state constitution to prohibit involuntary servitude without exceptions. By voting yes on Proposition 6, we are standing up against modern-day slavery. We are affirming that involuntary servitude is unacceptable in any form. Together, we can ensure that our state reflects the values of justice, equality, and freedom.
Hi, my name is Lorena Gonzalez, and I'm president of the California Federation of Labor Unions. We're excited that Kara is coming out to help in this year's election, as you always do. But one of our priorities, and one of the priorities of you as well, should be the $18 minimum wage. A lot of people don't realize just how important this is because we've made so many gains. We got to $15, we got to $16, we have $20 for fast food workers, we're getting to $25 for healthcare workers. So there are a lot of people who are like, well, what do we need? We need people who are making the minimum to be able to have a living wage, to be able to, if they work hard enough, 40 hours a week, that they should be able to live. $18 won't do it on its own, but it'll start to get them there. And it has an escalator, so that will increase every single year. We've got to stand up not just for union workers, but workers who wish they had a union. Those workers who are currently toiling at $16 an hour and can't make it in most parts of California. So we're glad you're joining us. I want to, hopefully we'll go out there and be successful at changing this for all those workers who desperately need a raise.
Hi, Kara. My name is Francisco. I'm the Executive Director of Housing Now, and I'm going to walk you through the Justice for Renters Act, what it is and what it does. Prop 33 would restore the right of local communities to expand rent control. Currently, on our books in California, we have a law called the Costa-Hawkins Act, which limited what local cities could do with respect to their local rent control. So if you are a family that lived in a single family home or a condo, that was a type of property that Costa-Hawkins prohibited local cities from covering under rent control. Also, any building built after 1995, or in the case of Los Angeles, 1978, in San Francisco, 1979, the years that rent control was established in those cities. The other way that Costa-Hawkins limits what local cities can do is that it prevents them from establishing any type of control once an old tenant moves out and a new tenant moves in. So this is what's called vacancy decontrol. And that means that landlords can raise the rent as much as they'd like on the mixed tenants. So local governments will be able to cover these types of properties under their rent control, but it doesn't mean that they have to. The actual text of the proposition just says that the state cannot limit the right of any city or county or city and county to maintain, enact, or expand rent control, residential rent control. Now, the opponents say that this will cause developers to build less, and NIMBY cities will pass strong rent control in order to prevent new housing. Our coalition says we need both rent control and greater public in affordable housing, and that we need elected officials that support both of these at all levels of government. In fact, we actually have a campaign going right now called 1 Million Homes, where we're calling on Governor Newsom to fully fund his goal of 1 million affordable homes by 2030. So I'm hoping you all can support that campaign as well. Check it out at 1millionhomesca.org. Now, there's a bunch of ways that Costa-Hawkins is making it worse in terms of our rising rents. For one, it is contributing to the dwindling amount of housing stock that is covered by rent control. In places that have rent control, but you have these properties that are not covered and there's a lot of demand, well, in those areas, it is continuing to drive up rents. It also means that landlords are able to, are incentivized to really get rid of long-term tenants because they're going to be able to charge new tenants as much as they'd like. And what we have seen that corporate landlords have really rushed into this area, is particularly buying single-family homes because they know they can rent them out at, and won't be regulated. Those rents won't be regulated by local jurisdictions. Now, rent control polls very well, but most renters do not have any type of rent control, and so it does lend itself to being confused by the opposition. The campaign for Prop 33 is focusing on their motto, the rent is too damn high. If you support that, you want to support Prop 33. The opposition is really backed by corporate real estate interests. The California Apartment Association has put in $10 million, and the California Association of Realtors has put in $22 million. In particular, they have set up this new fund called Homeownership for Families, where they not only are opposing Prop 33, but they're also opposing Prop 5, which actually is something that makes it easier for local governments to fund affordable housing. And I point that out to show how disingenuous our opposition is in calling out that rent control will make it harder to build more housing when they themselves are opposing a policy that would make it easier to build. And so I'm hoping that this answers your questions on Prop 33 and that we continue to get your support. Thanks.
Where will I live? Where will I live?
Where will I live?
Support rent control now.
I think we're at the end of the video. Tell me.
Yes.
Okay,
That was
great.
the end.
So that was quite a production. Thank you. And I'd like to get our other speakers to speak, and then we can open up for Q&A. We have a good amount of time for Q&A on any of these propositions, and the ones that maybe haven't been discussed as on that video. So I'd like to welcome Itzel. And I would like to invite Kei Yamamoto from the Pacific. I had your title right in front of me.
Don't worry about it.
Community Engagement Director for the Pan-Ethnic Health Coalition. But you correct me and tell us, just say a little bit about the group and how you come to be there, and then share your message on
sounds great. And yeah, thank you, Betsy. And thank you to the East Bay Great Panthers for your work, and also for inviting us to present on Prop 35. I'm Kei Yamamoto. I represent the California Pan-Ethnic Health Network. We're a statewide policy advocacy organization that's focused on addressing disparities in health outcome, especially disparities that are apparent when it by race, age, and different abilities. I come to this work, I think, more from a more personal experience. You know, I'm a son of a single mother, grew up in the Midwest, and I think just having seen and experienced the ways that, you know, our society does marginalize people, it's makes me you know, want to be a part of finding a solution to that and contributing to a solution to that. And you know, it's not going to happen in the short term. It's definitely a long-term effort. So it makes me personally more appreciative of the folks on this call who, you know, I'm really just walking the trail that you all have laid ahead. And I'll go ahead and share my screen just to share a little bit about the about Proposition 35. Is this popping up for everybody?
Are people able to read it?
Yes, we could see. Can you
Okay.
if you can?
I cannot enlarge it, unfortunately, but
Oh no, it's good. I'm sorry. It's good. I just
oh,
put
okay,
myself
okay.
on full screen.
Okay, great. So, and I'll keep this brief to 5 minutes. And Betsy, please interrupt me if I go over.
Quick question. If there's
Yes.
anything really important that's text on these slides, don't assume that we all can see it.
Yeah.
Say it out because I won't be able to read it. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Got it. So Prop 35, I'll mention first that our organization, CPEN, along with Kara and the League of Women Voters and other health and democracy advocate organizations are in opposition. The folks that are on the yes side include Planned Parenthood and several health plans and doctors and hospital associations. Just a quick breakdown of what Prop 35 does. It is dealing with how a source of revenue called the Managed Care Organization tax is distributed. And this is not a new tax. This is already in place. And this proposition is specifically dealing with who gets that money. And what it'll end up doing is, if it passes, it'll lock up the revenue that's produced by the MCO tax, this Managed Care Organization tax, which is on any given year is several billions of dollars. It locks it up for very specific buckets, mainly going to providers. And it'd be going towards increasing payments to healthcare providers. As a note, we're not, CPEN is not against that. We definitely agree that our doctors and nurses should get paid more. And we definitely agree with Medi-Cal funding. What this does not do is make Medi-Cal funding permanent. That is not what this proposition does. And the state of California by itself is not even able to do that. That requires federal approval. And the some of our concerns with Proposition 35 and why we've ultimately decided to be in opposition is that it is, number one, a very confusing ballot. It you know, it really is wonky, and it should not be on the ballot for voters to decide. And the second is that it will create a $12 billion budget hole. This is according to the Legislative Analyst's Office and the Department of Finance for the state of California. And what the reality of a $12 billion budget gap means is that we'd be faced with needing to make cuts. And the cuts would happen to social safety net programs that those of us on Medi-Cal would likely benefit from and utilize. The proposition itself, the way that the tax money would get redistributed, it's not based on the needs of Medi-Cal. It's really based on who's paid the most into this coalition and into the Yes campaign. There's several things that would be left out that are concerning to us. Coverage for children 0 to 5 would be cut. Coverage for long-term support services, for adult daycare services, and other benefits for seniors and those with disabilities would be cut. And the funding and support for really vital programs like community health workers would be cut if this proposition passed.
You are at 5 minutes.
Okay. Got it.
But if you want to if there's some important missing information, we can also deal with it in questions. But go ahead, another minute.
No problem. I will just really quickly mention that the top 3 funders for the Yes campaign, GMR is a private equity firm, California Hospital Association, which represents all the hospitals, and the California Medical Associations, which represents providers, are the top 3 funders of the Yes campaign. And that we don't really need this because we've have a process already in place where people like us are able to advocate for how money gets spent on Medi-Cal programs and healthcare programs. This proposition would cut that process out, and you and I would not be able to advocate for where this several $billion source of revenue would go towards. So our call to action is very simple: vote no, and please tell others to vote no. And then of course happy to share these slides and also speak in any other spaces that the folks on the call are interested in or represent. And with that, thanks Betsy for letting me go a few seconds over, and I will return the mic back to you.
Thank you. We were going to have Sani Sethi from San Francisco Rising, SF Rising, Jody or Daisy, if you're still here. Do you have any updates?
I don't know where she is, but I can send her a quick email, see if she can hop on really quick.
Thank you. And she was going to speak about Prop 36. Can we get a brief, or did I'm mixing up 35 and 36. So my notes say 35 is what you spoke on. Okay. So fine.
Yes.
Can we get a brief brief description maybe from Jody on 30?
Yeah, I'll give it a go. It's not going to be as complete as science, but I'll tell you. So many of you may remember it was in the last congressional election, I think 2 years ago, we passed a proposition called Prop 45. And it redefined certain crimes to be lower level crimes, drug and petty theft, shoplifting kinds of crimes, and reclassified them in part and to reduce jail and prison population for minor crimes and misdemeanors. And all the money that would be saved from housing these folks in jail awaiting trial or in prison post-trial was going to be redistributed to substance abuse programs, mental health programs, and homeless housing programs. And that passed overwhelmingly a couple of years ago. So that was Prop 45. This measure, Prop 36, would overturn Prop 45. So undo what we just really started doing, which was to obviously remove people who are causing these crimes from continuing to do so, but funneling them into programs and services that would actually help them deal with their substance abuse, mental health, or homeless issues, and redirect that money so that they would have support and not be inclined to commit these crimes. That's what we were hoping would happen, and we had just started this experiment with Prop 45. This bill would undo all that. And not only would it take that money away from all those services and programs designed to support people who are struggling with these issues, but it would reclassify these crimes not as misdemeanors, but as felonies. That would increase, thank you, Prop 40, thought it was 46, but 47 was passed in 2014 is what Arlene said. Anyway, it would reclassify back to the old days, remove the money from these programs and create them, reclassify them as felonies. And this will cost us, the taxpayers, millions, if not billions, and more money from our tax dollars to keep people in prison for these crimes. But it also does nothing to help them or others who are seeking support to be able to deal with their underlying issues. So we lock them up, throw away the key, provide no support, and then expect a different result when they're released, having had no support put into programs that would help them deal with these issues that probably they've been struggling with for a long time. And so we are opposing Prop 36 because we want to continue supporting the organizations that help people address these issues. And we also want to give people a chance to deal with their substance abuse, their mental health issues, and as a society to start dealing with the incredible homeless problem that we are all experiencing. So we are recommending a no vote on Prop 36.
Thank you, Jody. We do now have Sani from SF Rising. So if you'd like to take some time, Sani, and add to the overview that we just got, please do. And say a few words about SF Rising and why you're involved in this passionate work that we're doing. Welcome.
Sure, yeah, I would be happy to. It's Sana, also Sana Sethi with SF Rising and SF Rising Action Fund. And yeah, first just want to apologize. I got my dates wrong and thought this meeting was tomorrow. So thanks Sethi, for reminding me just now to hop on. Yeah, I just hopped on, so I'm not exactly sure what was shared already about Prop 36, but I'd be happy to share a little bit about why SF Rising is endorsing a no vote. But first, yeah, I can just share SF Rising and SF Rising Action Fund, who I'm actually here on behalf of today. We're a grassroots alliance of 8 organizations in San Francisco, a few of which you might have heard. So we have Chinese Progressive Association, Coleman Advocates, Poder, Casa Justa, and other basically community organizations who have different focuses in San Francisco, but we all come together as an alliance through SF Rising when it comes to any issues that impact working class communities and communities of color. And so this sometimes looks like, advocating for a fair budget, coming together for elections, of course, getting our communities out to vote, and then putting out a voter guide with our stances on how we best believe we can build power for our communities. I do have some slides if I'm able to share them, or I can just speak, whatever you all would prefer. I do see I'm able to share my screen, so maybe I can just pull those up real quick.
And just know, Sana, that some of us are, you know, are not able to read. So, I'm sorry, we're not able to read, but you know, describe what you're saying, because given who we are, not everyone has perfect eyesight for Zoom or
Absolutely.
can see what you're talking about.
Betsy, we just had a very well-presented argument explanation about Proposition 36.
So I think, Norma, we will ask Sana to keep this very brief. And if there's
she won't know what she missed, but she might guess if she knows Jody.
Yeah.
Yes, she
How
does.
about I can maybe take any questions, or if there's a specific part of Prop 36 y'all would like to hear more about, I'm happy to answer, specific questions or say more about a specific part, because I don't want to repeat too much of what was already said, and I can just keep it up here for now.
Sure. I think you do want to read this. This is sort of a summary of what Jody, and I think if we can see it and hear it, for those of us who do work graphically, I think it'll help.
Absolutely,
Then
yes.
we'll open up for questions when you're done on Prop 36.
That sounds great. Yeah, so this November on the ballot, Prop 36 is one of the ballot measures. And as Jody has probably mentioned, it would change certain misdemeanors for low-level crimes to felonies. And the problem with this is that when someone has a felony on their record, it makes it really hard for them to get a job, to find housing, because they have to check a box saying that they have a felony. And so we are against Prop 36, which would repeal parts of Prop 47, which was passed in 2014. That actually was the reverse. So it made certain felonies to misdemeanors to avoid the problem I just mentioned about people not really being able to succeed, not being able to find a way to make income because they have that felony on their record. The reason we're against this is because, it does not address why people commit crimes. We believe, and the research shows, that the way to address why people commit crimes is through programs that are evidence-based and get to the root causes of what crime happens in the first place. And what's dangerous about 36 is that over the next 10 years, it would actually cut money, significant amount of money from those programs that keep us safe. So $750 million would be cut over the next 10 years from drug treatment, mental health, homelessness prevention, and crime prevention programs. And this includes $120 million from victim services programs. So, we're hearing from the other side, from the Yes campaign, like we're hearing that people are seeing ads that say like, this is about safety, we need to be safe, but really Prop 36 is gutting those programs that keep us safe. And
Thank you.
I think, yeah. And just to read the last bullet point that I think I heard Jody referring to when I hopped on, it also would make penalties harsher for drug offenses and petty thefts, leading to more overcrowding in prisons and jails, which is already a problem that we face in California.
Thank you. Thank you very much. If you stop sharing, then I think we can open up for some pretty robust questions, including several that are currently in chat. So we do want to keep I know what people have passionate feelings and thoughts, but let's assume that we share those and ask specific questions. So in chat, I see that Arlene has asked, can she speak to the impact of immigrants who have been incarcerated and how
this would affect them if this law is passed?
Yeah. And then there's a question from Cheryl. Is there anything on the ballot regarding out of control theft that's happening supposedly because it is classified as a misdemeanor? Or is that not an issue? So that's kind of opening up the larger question about crime and punishment. And I'm going to assume that you and Jody, or if someone else has worked on this issue, but maybe you can answer first, Sana, and then Jody.
Yeah, to answer Arlene's question around immigrants who have been incarcerated and the impact, there is some concern that having harsher punishments could lead to more deportations for certain folks who have a record, and also just considering, the racial bias in our criminal legal system, how this will disproportionately impact Black communities, Latinx communities, Indigenous communities. And so, yeah, I do think Prop 36, as well as just generally the incarceration system, does have a significant impact on immigrant communities. And then to answer Cheryl's question, is there anything on the ballot regarding out of control theft? Yeah, there is nothing on the ballot, but I do want to just name that the legislature and Gavin Newsom just signed a package deal of retail theft bills to combat this issue. And so that is why actually Gavin Newsom and certain elected officials are against Prop 36, because they actually feel they have just passed a package of bills to address it. And this is kind of going too far and a little bit extreme when it has been addressed through the legislative process just now.
Thank you.
And also just to add that, I think going back to the community programs that Prop 36 would defund, those are the programs that get at the root cause of why theft and other crimes happen in the first place. So by voting no on Prop 36, I think we see it as actually that does address the reason those crimes happen.
Jody, do you want to add something?
I don't think so. I think that says it all.
I have a question for you, which is that that there are 3 recall campaigns of women of color who are new in political office, 3 recall campaigns in Alameda County that all claimed they're soft on crime. And that's why we have to get rid of them. And one of these campaigns was put in place when our current DA, Pamela Price, had just stepped into office. So there was no cross comparison. So I wonder if you could speak to who are the, just naming, who are the opponents who feel the best way to deal with crime is by increasing penalties, putting more people back in jail, whatever evidence you have for who those folks are.
Yeah, no, thanks for making that point. I think the recalls of progressive DAs definitely connects to Prop 36 and kind of this resurgence that we're seeing of harsh crime policies all over the state. I mean, when I joined SF Rising Action Fund, we were, facing the DA recall of Chesa Boudin, which was successful. And so, yeah, the people behind Prop 36 are big corporations, Walmart, Target, Macy's, 7-Eleven, who, want a quick fix. And, while we acknowledge that, yes, retail theft and the videos we're seeing do need to be addressed and people need to be held accountable. We also know that Prop 36 is not the way to do that. And these folks do not care about the people who are going to be harmed by 36, who have generational trauma from, the war on drugs and other harsh crime policies that over generations have caused a lot of harm to communities, especially communities of color and low-income communities. They just want to protect their profits. They want to protect the status quo. And also we're seeing support from certain elected officials who also want to be seen as tough on crime, which, like Betsy's kind of alluding to, is becoming popular as we're seeing with the recalls and things like that. And so, yeah, also just to point out, the types of crime that are uplifted by news organizations and news media versus the wage theft. And I just saw an article about Safeway having to settle a multi-million-dollar lawsuit because they were lying to customers about the cost of different items in their stores. And so, just pointing out the contrast between how we treat, individuals committing crime versus big corporations.
Thank you. I'm going to suggest we move on to other propositions. I'm not able to see everybody, so I'm going to jump and ask a question regarding Prop 5 specifically, which is what protections for low-income property owners, I mean, especially people on fixed incomes. We know that, over time, here in Berkeley, there are people who feel that their fixed income is not is endangered. Their ability to survive is endangered because property taxes will grow, or other tax expenses of, say, bond measure that even if it's for a worthy cause. Just, this isn't something we've discussed, Gray Panthers, directly, but I hear folks. Can you speak to that? What are the protections in Prop 5? Or is that could you speak to that issue?
So Prop 5 doesn't establish a new tax on anybody. I think that's a misconception. It's about voting and what constitutes a majority vote, or a larger than majority vote. And right now, to pass any kind of infrastructure, not just housing, any kind of infrastructure improvement in a local community, you need 2/3 of the voters to approve it. That's the current law. And all this Prop 5 does is lower that threshold, still to a supermajority, but 55% instead of 2/3, which is, whatever that is, 62% or 63%, so that a majority can still make this decision, but a minority can't undo that decision, which is what the current law allows. A minority of voters can supersede on these votes, whether it's for road improvements or affordable housing or school improvements or library improvements. So it's just changing the threshold. Prop 5 does not authorize any taxes, any borrowing for any community. It's just changing the amount of votes needed in order to approve one of those things. Then, if this passes and say Berkeley or Oakland wants to put a bond measure on a future ballot to improve the libraries, I'm just throwing that out. Then it will only need 55% of the vote to approve that bond. And in an individual bond measure, the community that's asking for this bond or this increase can specify who needs to pay it. So I don't live in Alameda County, I live in San Francisco County, but we have had bond measures that had to be passed by 2/3 vote. But that specified people who were under a certain income, even if they were property owners, would not be subject to paying that tax, to deal with what you just asked. But that's up to the individual community to put into the language of a request for borrowing on behalf of that city or county. Prop 5 doesn't enact any tax. It just changes the voting thresholds, and then it will be up to each community to decide if they want to propose a new bond or tax for a particular reason, and if they want to exclude certain people because of age or income, they can include that in the language of the bond measure, and that will be up to you all to fight to make sure that that language is included if they go for a bond measure. So I just want people to know that. There's real confusion. Prop 5 doesn't raise anybody's taxes. Doesn't put any bond measure forward. It's just a change in what is defined as majority in order to pass a future tax.
And we have a comment from Norma that the Peace and Freedom Party has tended to and she has put a comment in to see the Peace and Freedom Party positions. And they have currently oppose Prop 5. Okay.
Can I ask this question?
Yes, and then I'd like to make sure we
It
have
has nothing to do with what you just described. It has to do with
Please say the
Jody.
question, Norma.
Yes. Jody said something about 55% being a super majority. And I don't understand that.
Well, maybe that was the wrong term.
Okay,
It's a
good.
super
Thank you.
majority, but it's
Thank
more
you.
than 50% plus
Thank
one,
Thank you.
which is a majority.
Thank you.
And Sana put the current amount is 66.7%.
Yeah,
Is
right.
the super majority. So we're reducing the ability.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying. Are there other questions about just Prop 3 is about marriage equality. Prop 5 is, we just discussed. Prop 6 is to end coerced prison labor. I hope I'm doing justice.
Involuntary servitude.
Involuntary servitude. And Prop 32 is to raise minimum wage. Prop 33 repeals the Costa-Hawkins and enables cities to or counties to vote for rent control, currently prohibited. I do want to say that that presentation in the video was from Tenants Together, and
No,
we are.
It was not. It was from Housing California.
Yeah, it
That's
was Housing California.
Forgive me. We are members. We, East Bay Gray Panthers, is a member along with Kara. We are independently members of Housing Now,
Right.
California Housing Now, which just want to let people know if they want to look it up. And Francisco does a great job as ED. So, yeah, are there any other propositions of this at the state level? Do we have questions? And we, you know, Gray Panthers has not taken a position on any of these, but of course we want to make sure everyone, we are definitely partisan in many ways. So that's why we didn't ask the League of Women Voters for today. But I do know that the League in Oakland has some different positions than does the League for Berkeley, Emeryville, and Albany. I don't know if we have a member here who might want to speak to that, a member of the League of Women Voters. No, we do. Pam White is part of the Berkeley, but she's not able to be with us today. Okay. Any last statements, comments about the vote? Hopefully not all of you have already voted and this is useful to you. I have to admit, Rains and I have not cast our ballots yet, but we will.
I just wanted to say thank you for great information and to further educate us on these ballot measures. So those of us who have not voted yet, you know, we're much more informed. I just want to thank everybody.
And thank you, Arlene. Margot.
Yes, a lot of us are concerned because we have not received our voter's guide in Alameda County. And I was wondering how people have experienced that and what their reaction is.
I got mine on Saturday. Finally.
I haven't gotten one.
Yeah, it's not just Alameda County. I've been hearing this from counties around the state. And, you know, I don't know the exact reason in each case, but what I can tell you is that the post office has been very slow. We can thank DeJoy, the commissioner, but I talked to my postal delivery people and stuff is sitting in the main post offices waiting to be sorted because they haven't hired. They're very understaffed. They haven't hired enough people to sort and to deliver. And so, like, my postal delivery person has been working overtime every day, and picking up other areas that were not normally on his route because there aren't enough people. So I think we have some work to do to fix our postal service. And that's really terrible that you haven't gotten your voter guides. You can go to your Department of Elections and pick one up, but that's a pain. But it is possible if you're anxious to vote and want to have that tool, you can get them. Some places even have them online. I don't know if Alameda County does that. They do in San Francisco. So there's other ways to get it, but shame on the Postal Service, especially in an election as important as this one.
Is there anything we can do about getting rid of DeJoy? I've heard there's nothing anybody can do, and I find that hard to believe.
Yes, we can elect a president who cares about continuing the Postal Service, and they have a lot to do with the appointment of the head person. We did try, and I think you were part of that, to sign petitions to Trump and then Biden to remove DeJoy without much success. And it's not just a presidential decision, by the way. There's also commissioners, postal commissioners, and there's some new appointees that Biden made that are much better than who was there before. But we have to fix that commission who ultimately hires and fires the head of the post office. And the president has a lot to do with that. So another reason to make sure you cast your ballot for someone who you think cares about preserving the Postal Service and strengthening it.
Thank you. I do want to note that Helen has put, Helen, you were talking about a particular set of recommendations for the state ballot measures from the disability rights community. Do you want to mention that?
Well,
or put the link in again?
Yeah, in the chat, just to assist people, we're talking about delays in the post and all this stuff. That does affect persons who have requested accommodations. My large print just arrived yesterday. I haven't cast my ballot yet because I really want to dive into the information. I appreciate all the conversation today. But in the chat, American Association of People with Disabilities has a whole campaign going called Rev Up the Vote. I've been involved in that in different states. So what I provided in there is state by state voting information that does dive into accessibility and accommodations and your preparedness when you go to cast your ballot. So I provided that in the chat. It's well done. As it's by state, I specifically gave you the California for those who want to go direct there. It's also in different languages. So that's what's in the chat for anybody who wants it. American Association of Persons with Disabilities, Rev Up the Vote started back several years, but there's a lot of us volunteers out here that answer questions and information. And on the day of voting, we'll also be putting out information if the place you're going, the polling place, or if you had accommodations issues because of what was being brought up about the delay in the post. It really does affect voters with disabilities. That includes seniors and people just getting to know they have a right to vote with a disability and make a reasonable request. Thanks.
Wonderful. I think we're going to have a little more discussion about general voting, but Jody has said she needs to go, and I just want to thank her very much. And Sana and Kay, if you're sticking around a little bit or might have some additional information. But first, Carol, you've had your hand up for a while and haven't spoken. Margot, is that a different question? And then we'll go to Norma.
I have directions on how to find the information for your booklet on the internet. If anyone needs that, email me and I'll send it to you.
Carol, are you able to put your email in the chat? Or do you want
Yes.
to do that? Okay. So we will save the chat and try to post it along with the recording, but it might take a little while to get it on our East Bay Gray Panthers website. Okay. Phew, sorry, I just see 3 hands, but I can't see everyone's face. So Margot, you're next. You're
and
next
it's-
after Margot.
It's one line.
Okay.
You ready? I also posted it in the chat. The post office has been said to be a major hiring place for Black people, and this goes back over 100 years or more, and at good wages and working conditions, as it were. I thought.
Thank you. It's really good. It's actually, thank you, Norma. We went out a few years ago. We did some rallying and bannering with CARA members on the pedestrian overpass here off of 80. And that was a very jubilant thing to support the postal workers, as well as standing up for Medicare and Social Security. And hopefully we'll be able to do that again. That was pre-COVID. Margot, your hand is still up. Did you?
Yes, well, regarding the Postal Service and the voter's guide, the information that I got was that the registrar of voters, who's well known as being incompetent, put the voter's guide into the post office a week after the ballot was sent out. So it's not only the post office, it's the registrar of voters. And he's done other things that have been really bad. Like last election, he declared a school board member was the winner. Then he said, oops, he's not the winner, the other guy's the winner. And he was sued. And he's head of 2 departments in the county, and we should only really have a head for each department. So there's lots of instances, and I'm very, very worried about how fast the vote is going to be counted by this guy. And other people are worried about this too. So if you feel like taking on another issue to act on, you might think about what we can do to get the Board of Supervisors to replace the registrar of voters.
Margot, I hope you'll bring that back after the election if you feel we'd be suited to pursue that. We don't endorse candidates, but I do have to just acknowledge that Margot is a former chair of Gray Panthers for 10 years, East Bay, and how's your campaign going for?
Oh, well, that's a story in itself. Yes, thank you. I'm running for state assembly against Buffy Wicks and the in Assembly District 14, which goes from Piedmont all the way up to Hercules. It's 150,000 voters. And I've been going to candidate forums. Buffy's appeared at one of them. I've been to about 20 of them, and she came to the first one on video. So she's not very interested in communicating with her constituents. And she actually killed Healthcare for All California by burying it in committee. So we have a lot of issues to work on. We're both Democrats, and I'm running because she had no opposition in 2022, and there were lots of issues that I was concerned about. So if you feel like voting for me on the ballot, I'd very much appreciate it. Thank you.
Problem with Buffy is her name is Buffy. Buffy.
Well, there's Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and there was Buffy St. Marie. I think probably Buffy St. Marie was more relevant to her.
Well, she at least deserved that name if she chose it or whatever. Buffy.
So I want to thank our speakers again. Please, in the chat, they've put connections, emails, or links to their organization, San Francisco Rising and the California Multi-Ethnic Health CPEN. So thank you. So we are now in a position to turn it over to local discussion. And I have to say, we didn't have a formal speaker because some of our members are involved in local elections. But I do want to acknowledge, Linda, are you here? I see that you put League of Women Voters in your name, and I probably should have known that, but I'm glad you made it. And are there people who want to speak to specific measures on the Berkeley or Oakland or Alameda County? Because usually we have people who are active in those campaigns. So I see Margot. Yeah, Carol.
We've already supported 2 Berkeley measures.
Yep.
Did you mention those?
I will. I will certainly. And I wanted to see who else might have special information about other ballot measures. But we are going to talk about BB and CC. I appreciate that. These are opposing measures in Berkeley. So I see Helen raised her hand. If you can, if I can just make a note of which propositions different people. Carol wanted to speak about, Carol Morosevich, about Helen, which one did you want to address? And then we'll get back to you.
EE, fixing our streets and sidewalks.
And the competing one, FF?
The competing one is FF, but I am wanting to speak on EE.
Okay, so we'll get that in there. Thank you, Helen. And then, so why don't we begin? Not seeing Carol, I'm going to need to track you. You know, if you see hands, because there's more people on here than I can track on one screen. And then Margot, did you want to speak specifically also to a particular?
Yes, I'd like to speak to HH.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a good, well, 20 minutes for this, so hopefully we will make good progress. And I just wanted to welcome Leonzo as well as anyone, Linda, others who joined us a little bit late. Okay, so why don't we start with BB and why East Bay Gray Panthers board had a chance to discuss this last week, and we endorsed it. And I'm sitting here, I'll just say, I'm sitting here with an oppositional door hanger. Vote no on BB, vote yes on CC. And as some of you know, I'm always grateful that the city of Berkeley requires something like 10-point font listing the opponents, listing the producers of the glossy flyer, because we have started getting these, and inevitably you will see the California Association of Realtors or the National Association of Realtors is often the largest funder of these campaigns. And if you haven't heard me rant on this, please come to one of our socials or call me up, or go to the book Freedom to Discriminate, which got published a few years ago. This is a detailed history of why these realtors organizations for the last 110 years have systematically, and acknowledged that they have systematically deprived, conducted racist, illegal campaigns of disinformation and of biased steering of customers to enforce segregation and depriving people of choices about where they live and who they live with. So I'll go back into it. So anyway, so BB is we had the Berkeley Tenants Union former president Julia here last week, at our board meeting, summarizing the aspects of this. Is there anyone else involved directly in that who might speak to this community measure? Otherwise, I will do my best. And Carol, make sure you time me. Just limit me to a couple minutes on BB. We support Measure BB for Better Berkeley. It is a measure that originated with our Berkeley independently elected rent board, and behind that, the Berkeley Tenants Union. 50 years or more for standing up for renters. We are a majority renter city, but we don't maintain rent control without support of homeowners who believe in housing justice as well. So BB is an effort to strengthen the rent board ability to both educate and potentially advise or mediate among more renters in Berkeley. It at the end of the day, this was put on the ballot by the city council with some changes to the original language. But we nevertheless, we Gray Panthers support it. Well, I'm not going to quote I said antichrist. That's not the right word. No insults to individual realtors, just the organization they name themselves after and belong to and pays dues for is the #1 funder of anti-tax, anti-renter, and other measures to really democratize affordable housing in this state and nationally. So I support BB. Anyone else want to make a pitch for BB? As a renter, what the rent board has done or can do? I know no one is prepared for this. So CC is a measure put together by the Berkeley Property Owners Association, the Berkeley Rental, they created something called the Berkeley Rental Housing Coalition. This is in no way, however, it's a coalition funded by the National Association of Realtors, $35,000 to produce this flyer. So CC, partisanly, we call it what? Corrupt corporate housing interests. However, if it has good ideas to help homeowners, I know we can still work on those issues. There's nothing in which homeowning and renting are opposites unless you are the landlord, in which case there can be good landlords and bad tenants. At least, I'm sorry, I'm aware of there's, conflicts among any group, especially when it's about your home. But in this case, we support BB. Please vote yes on BB and no on C. Carol, do you want to?
EE and FF?
Yep. So Helen?
The only thing I would say is that it's actually very different from the one the rent board was putting on the ballot, BB. Well, it's substantially changed because the one that didn't gather enough valid signatures on petitions removed the golden duplex exemption.
So Carol,
mm-hmm.
Do you want to speak on a different position? Do you want
Well, it's not a different position. I just want to say
we don't need to.
It's not the same thing. It's different.
Are you saying that the Berkeley Tenants Union doesn't support this?
No, I didn't say that.
Okay, so
I'm just Carol, saying that I'm going to
stop
from the one that the rent board started.
So, and I'm not
changed by council.
Got it. So I mentioned that this was put on the ballot by City Council. I did not mention the sausage making that went in to getting it approved. But we do support it. And I've put you down, Carol, to talk about W, but first, Helen. Actually, let me pause. Are we good? Are we okay? If there's any questions, I think I've bored you all to death. Why don't we go then on to Measure EE? Helen.
Yeah, hi, and just so you know, after a lot of reading and diving into this and my own personal lived experience and the history I've gone through over figuring out how the city fixes our streets and what their policies is, I'm all for yes on EE, just to let you know. And my reasoning is because EE has a better foundation to fix the worst streets and sidewalks first. It also deals with the 50-50. A homeowner, when a sidewalk has a certain connection to the homeowner also has to pitch in to fix that sidewalk. EE will be able to fix the sidewalks without affecting people that might be homeowners on fixed incomes. So let me just, because that was my major reason why I prefer EE over FF. The other reason is EE is looking for the whole to be good, brought up to good standards of our streets and sidewalks, where FF is looking at, well, if the average is good of the city, then we're good. We don't need to put funding into fixing our streets and sidewalks. EE has a better, firmer foundation. So those are my reasonings, and I know they sound simple, but I am full-hearted for that, because as an advocate in the disability community, just to fix things like on Martin Luther King Way in front of a bus stop, there was a huge sidewalk issue. I had to spend a lot of time and energy to get the attention brought to that being fixed. What the city of Berkeley does is they just sort of decide, is it worthy of being fixed, or do we have, or if it's in an area. The other reason too, most of our low-income people live further distance away from where the bus stops are. And if you're not gonna fix the sidewalks and streets in the low-income area and only do where the most traffic is, it doesn't equalize our experience as citizens out here being able to get to where we're going, especially when we're thinking about the environment. So financially wise, it looks to me like it's far more solid. It's more focused on the structure. FF, there's a loose in it where they can spend money on any kind of safety thing or building more bicycle tracks. I am a bicyclist with a disability and I use an adaptive bike. And as much as I would like to have more access on the streets, the bicycle tracks don't give me that because they don't fit my tricycle. So with that being said, the streets being safer is a better option for me. So that's why I'm going for EE. So there's the long and the short of it. There's a good comparison. I'll put the link in there that Fix Our Streets organization did with a comparison, and I'll put that link into the chat for anybody who wants to discern or look into it further or has further questions. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Helen. Norma has a question. Helen, do you want to call on? Do you want to take questions or a comment?
It's real simple. What are you voting on? What issue? Or what are you recommending on what issue? And what I've heard bicyclists saying, take the lane. What do you think about that for your use of your tricycle?
Well, for your two questions, I'm voting yes on EE because it's more structured.
Okay. I just couldn't
Or-
get that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'm EE. I'm voting for E because of its foundation. There's a foundation here of focus on the whole of our community having accessibility by fixing our streets and sidewalks. The other reason is it actually helps with the 50-50 issue of why some of our sidewalks are never fixed. In terms of taking the streets as a bicyclist, I'm a low vision bicyclist, so I don't take the street. I'm all about safety. For me, if it doesn't look safe, I get off my bike and I walk my bike on the sidewalk. But if the sidewalk has all kinds of cracks and everything going on there and it's hard for pedestrian, it makes it harder for them and me to work together even though I'm walking my bicycle. So I'm looking at this in broader terms of its importance. So people using adaptive devices have equal access and we can all just get along.
Yeah, in your dreams.
Thank you, Helen. I want to say Helen has served on the Transportation Commission advisory groups and
I've also served on Vision Zero, which was data done to help us to have a more inclusive and safe for pedestrians. And when I was serving on Vision Zero in Berkeley, they did not have good data collection for seniors and persons with disabilities. There was only one other person in that room along with me bringing up these broader perspectives as I'm bringing up with you of how I think about in my structure when I'm going in a direction to vote. I'm looking for the structure to improve so we have a more equal opportunity for the diversity of access needed in the community.
Thank you. Thank you, Helen. So I'd like now to call on Carol Morosevich for our member who wants to speak on W.
Thanks, Betsy. So Measure P passed in 2018. Measure P was the tax, a property transfer tax on properties of 1.5 million and above. And that is scheduled to sunset on 2028. This has been placed on the ballot so that essentially it would replace Measure P. This is Measure W, and would not have a sunset date. So once placed on the ballot, it would have to go back to the voters for it to be removed. So it's an indefinite tax, and it's a property transfer tax, not a parcel tax. So it does not impact on homeowners that are low income, fixed income, etc. This is just on a transfer. And this tax is now scheduled, set up in such a way that if passed, when passed, it is tiered so that at different levels above 1.5 million, there will be additional increases. So that someone who buys property, sells property at $3 million will be paying a higher tax, but it only impacts again on properties that are 1.5 million, sold for 1.5 million and above. And it has 3 different tiers to it. So this is essentially the wealthiest people paying for the lowest income, the most impoverished people, which are the homeless, for services. The panel, which I'm chair of the Homeless Services Panel of Experts, would continue under Measure W. The main difference is that the tax does not expire and that we'll have tiers so that the wealthiest will pay the most for the impoverished persons. This tax also will not take effect until January 2027. That was negotiated with the realtors, I think wisely so that they wouldn't oppose it, so that we wouldn't be inundated with literature that would be opposing something that's a good tax. They agreed to accept it has a tax, not oppose it, as long as it was not implemented until January of 2027.
Thank you, Carol. Can you speak to how the money has been used? My understanding is that the transfer tax funds are available to city council or city staff or city manager as for any purpose, general funds.
Well, but it isn't, hasn't.
But no,
It has
so
not been
how
used for
has it-
anything except homeless services. The one point of contention between the homeless services panel of experts repeatedly, and our advice has been, is that we are not pleased with the monies that have gone towards 5150 transports, which is our transports to John George. And this is something that we've repeatedly objected to. Other than that, we have agreed to homeless services this last time, the various purposes it's been used, such as the Horizon that was at 742 Grayson, which is an excellent model, and only ended because of we couldn't get a longer lease on it. And the city is looking for a current model like that to serve the people in the Harrison Street area. This is the Measure P monies are used for Dorothy Day House. They're used for all sorts of homeless services. As I said, the 5150 has been the only objection. We also have community agency allocation monies, which used to be considered every 2 years, now are considered every 4 years. And in those monies, this time we would have hoped to get LGBT housing, but we couldn't get that through council. But otherwise, we aligned, staff and us aligned in terms of which services should be provided. Going back to the Measure P, it fills in gaps where there hasn't been community agency allocation money for the homeless services, where we don't have state grants. I might advise people, I don't think everybody knows this yet, that's in this Zoom meeting, that the city has now received the monies in 5.4 million for the Howard Johnson's that's in the 1400 Street of University, and the 27 room for 4 years, so that the 27 rooms there will be used to be offered to persons staying around the Cedar Street area.
So, Carol, I think we gotta.
So I've gone a little off topic with that, but I want people to know about that also. And there's also a part of that money, 200,000 towards studying how to get RV dwellers to relinquish their RVs and accept housing, which the state has given $150,000 for an RV buyback program if the city would buy the RVs the people are staying in, and so they would accept housing. But these are things that we get these state grants, like that's encampment resolution money or Project Home Key. So there's some other sources of funding, and there is this community agency allocation funding. So what Measure P does, which Measure W will now do, is cover all those other services that there is no funding for unless we have this pool of money from this transfer tax.
Okay, so Carol recommends strongly Measure W, yes. For those of you who live in Berkeley, I appreciate the information, Carol, and she will bring you. Obviously, I really appreciate your getting us up to date with what's going on with the homeless panel of experts and other members here, Maria Soul and others, myself a little bit, also involved in important advocacy, organizing, and work around the same issue, but not as commission members. So thank you, Carol.
And we are independent voices. We do discuss everything in detail. We are not just rubber stamps. Let me make that very clear. We're not.
Which reminds me, I do want to close out the Berkeley element, but if people have Oakland or county measures they want to draw attention to, put your hand up. And while you're doing that, Margot, is there anything you want to add as chair of the Commission on Aging? Are there any propositions that you particularly want to draw attention to?
Well, I've been involved with Proposition HH, which involves getting better air filters in our city buildings. We've had cases of employees and others getting COVID because of poor air conditions in the buildings. Actually, many of us feel that this is an issue that the city council should have brought up and paid for out of general funds without us having to go to the ballot. But here we are on the ballot, and what it would do, it would take improve the air in things like the senior centers, the recreation centers, the libraries, all the city buildings where both employees and the public are gathered. And it is a very necessary thing, and I hope that you'll vote yes on it. It seems to me a no-brainer. I mean, how do you like the idea of breathing bad air? I mean, so please vote yes on HH and make sure that we have our employees of the city safe and the public safe when they go into city buildings.
Thank you, Margot. I do want to make sure if there's measures in our other cities, where in Oakland or the county, and then Maria, if that's what you're raising your hand about.
May I just want to second the emotion of our good Margot, because I have literally gone up to city clerks in some of these meetings and requested that at least they open windows. It's like I can't breathe, and I can't be at a meeting where I can't breathe, and I just shudder to think of employees there during the day, 8 hours, but we need to be able to breathe. So back to basic human needs. Thank you, Margot. Thank you.
Thank you, William. I will just add that the school district has, it may not look like it, but they actually have more advanced, I forget the term, but the HEPA filters in the air ducts. They actually have the higher standard for air filtration. And perhaps that was because the school district took that initiative. So in a sense, this bill would bring the rest of the city buildings up to that standard.
I'm really happy for that in terms of the filtration and people not getting sick. But I'm talking about just basic ventilation, air, fresh air. Yeah, not
Okay.
even the high tech stuff, just air circulation so that there's air to breathe. It's unbelievable how simple this is and how overlooked it is. It's just unbelievable. Thank you.
Especially in springtime.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. That's great. Okay, I'm not seeing other hands. So that said, let's thank you everybody for who's, takes a stand and has information. I'd like to close this part of the meeting and move on to our board elections. Norma, if you can put it in chat, that would be great.
I did.
Okay, thank you.
I would still like to make a statement, a brief one. I haven't taken up much time. I put a comment in chat, and I'd like to say additional things. I'm advocating that all people be allowed to vote if they're 2 years old or whatever. If their conviction rate has them in prison, they be allowed to vote. That their citizenship status not keep them from voting. Inclusion is our process, and it ameliorates the bad behavior that comes out of alienation from being shoved aside. I'd also like to tell people that opportunity is a capitalist idea. Opportunity is something that if you take advantage of it and benefit from it, you're really lucky, but you'll be in competition with other people competing for that opportunity.
Thank you, Norma. Norma, I'm gonna you've made a cogent point and also a cogent point about voting and voting rights. But I
Betsy,
would like,
Betsy, could I possibly say something else that doesn't, before you end the meeting?
no,
I
we're
would
not
like
ending the meeting. We're finishing our election for making
okay,
sure members
okay.
approve the board in the coming year. So I, got to do it. It's in our bylaws. Go ahead then, Carol. And I hope Norma, you got a strong point. You made
Oh,
it.
I have only just
I know,
begun, you know
I
that.
know, I know.
I got a long
Well,
list.
Carol,
I just want to the MHSA, the Mental Health Services Act, is asking for community input on Proposition 1 and how this money should be used in Berkeley. And I was wondering if I provided this community survey to you, Betsy, if you could distribute it to Gray Panthers members.
well, I would right here and now, if you can, put it into the chat. This mental health stuff's pretty important. So, and I know a number of people are interested. There are some other arenas that we are being asked to give input in. So this is not the last time we're going to talk about community projects that the
But this is a survey that's due by Friday.
Well,
they're asking for it to be submitted no later
okay.
than Friday.
Put it in the chat. Put it in the chat. I cannot commit to making a bulk email because I've got some other bulk emails, but if you send it to me, I'll try to put it with the other bulk emails that I need to do. Okay.
Right. I'd actually have to forward it to you in the form it's in.
Okay. Okay.
That's the only way to do it. So do you want me to send it to somebody else in addition to you, Betsy?
Who here would like to receive the mental health survey from the city mental health agency?
Well, it's input for Prop 1, how the money should be used from the state.
Who here would like to receive that? Because you can put your email in the chat or speak it to Carol.
Right. It's asking how the bond money should be used.
A very important issue. And if anyone here would like to put their hand up to get it faster than counting on me, please do so. I'm not currently seeing names, but or hands, but that doesn't mean, so go ahead. Arlene has raised her hand. Do you want to receive this, Arlene?
And Maria wants to receive it. It's actually for the city of Berkeley, but
I'm not seeing any hand except from Arlene. And the reason I'm going to go ahead, Carol, send it to me. Because I know other folks, the Friends of Adeline, they have a whole committee on mental health.
good.
Already been
Whoever
meeting
you
with
can
the city
distribute this
staff.
to, it's due by Friday. And
Yeah.
it's how the bond money from the state
Okay,
should be
we have
used.
to vote.
Yes, thank you, Carol. So I feel like I'm going to close
Thank you.
out, and we still have a couple of announcements, but before we get to those, we can stay on till 4, but I try to adjourn the meeting by 1:30. So Carol, why don't you, while I take a pause, why don't you cover this next part of the election for board members? Can you?
I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Well,
this is the first I've.
Yeah, I know. Maria and I didn't have a chance to plan it out. So
this is simply telling people who's on the slate and asking people who are current members if they support it.
Yeah.
And if not, then we'll go down to individuals.
Okay. So
and I had agreed to do that, but I don't have the names in front of me right now.
So at the beginning we announced the names, and why don't I say the names of those board members who are their 2-year term is up, and we would like to serve another 2 years. And that is me, Betsy Morris. Maybe each person just say your name.
You just read it out, Betsy.
I don't have it. Okay. Rains Cohen, Carol Crooks, Betsy Morris, and
Helen Wall.
Robert.
Helen Walsh. And David Blake, who is missing right now.
David Blake?
I thought it was
Wasn't he-
Robert. I thought it was.
Oh, yeah,
Robert's on the
you're right,
ballot.
you're right. I'm sorry. Robert McGarry, Robert, okay.
Megarian.
The four of us, plus two new candidates that have spoken initially, and maybe your two candidates, Christy and Miss Cecilia, can just
Uh,
say hello and why you're asking for the vote, one sentence. Christy, Miss
I
Cecilia.
think they did that in the very beginning, Betsy.
Yes, but we have a different set of people here. I just
Oh,
want,
okay. All right.
Katie has not heard this, Dirk, Adrian, just say your names. That's.
Yeah. So I'm Christy Martin, and I research at UC Berkeley the impact of financial decision-making on neurological and psychiatric health at the Center for Research and Education and Aging. In fact, one of my students just came in. I don't know if you caught him in the background. But anyway, I just think being on the board of the Great Panthers would be great community outreach. And it sounds like that's what I'm hearing from the Great Panthers. It's a mutual a feeling about the connection here.
Thanks. And Miss
So,
Cecilia? Yeah.
so I heard, and I'm just supporting the work of the Great Panthers.
Thank you, Dirk. We appreciate you as a member.
Miss Cecilia?
All right. Do you want to say a sentence about her, Carol? Oh, there she is.
Yes, one minute, hold on, 1 minute. Now, what you asking for, baby? What you asking for?
Just so people can hear your voice and one sentence about why you want to serve on the Gray Panther East Bay board.
Reason why I want to serve on the East Bay Gray Panthers board, because I feel like I'm assessed to trying to do what I can to enhance their membership, and also to do whatever I can to keep us on the map. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. So we do have a articles of incorporation and bylaws, and we also, as a board, we're a small board. We have inclusiveness with our members whenever possible, but we do need a secretary. We have not had someone to kind of manage membership in a really focused way, although Carol has done a fabulous job. So I'm hoping that perhaps our new board members can divide and conquer that role of secretary. With various kinds of outreach and communications assistance to the board. So
But we're not voting on roles, we're voting on the board.
we are not voting on roles. We do that in January, I think. The board does that, actually.
Okay, so do you want me to propose that we are happy to have the recommitment for another 2 years of the already existing board members and then our two new applicants?
Yes. And actually, Maria, what you have to ask for is, are there any names from the floor? And just a reminder, if there are, I'm just recently told that that means we have to go through each of the candidates one by one. So
you mean additional names, Betsy?
Yeah.
Okay. So are there any additional names of nominees for the board of the East Bay Gray Panthers? Okay, and then am I to ask if there's any objections?
Well, just close out the nomination process with the people that have already been named, identified. Just
Okay.
Close out.
Okay, close out, because I am thrilled that everyone wants to recertify and be. All right, Betsy, it's just me and I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I'm just
You're
trying to
doing
do my
great.
best. Okay.
We're all
I'm
just doing
excited.
what we can. Yeah.
Thank God y'all are
So
recommitting. All right.
now you can just ask, can we declare this slate by acclamation?
Oh, great. Can we please declare this slate by acclamation of all the present board members?
And this is for current paid members to vote.
We're all good. Robert has his hand up. Oh, Robert is, I think what we're doing here is signaling thumbs up or hands up approval of the names as
Yeah,
mentioned.
the reaction button, the thumbs
Yeah.
up is
If
best.
you go to
Yeah.
reactions, as Rain was saying, go to reactions and you find a green circle with a check in it. And that's
Oh,
a yes
that's-
vote.
That can also be a yes.
Yeah.
And
Betsy, since I can't see what is visual, can you kind of just let me know where we're
Yes.
at? Thank
Yes.
you. I use the thing, but I'm a yes.
okay. And Maria, if you can just ask anyone who objects to the names.
Yeah. So
or
is there,
say, just
yeah, is there any-
unmute and speak up so Helen can hear whether there's objections.
Oh.
I'm
Okay, I thought I was unmuted. Are there any objections to this?
You can check your green button again to turn off your green button.
Thank you. That's a persistent reaction, unlike the short ones. Learn something new about Zoom every day.
So, since we were trying to do this by acclamation, I can just only say Robert says yes, Betsy says yes, Carol says yes, Christy says yes.
I count at least 10.
All right, well, we want everyone to be counted. Are there any objections? Speak now, because then we can go into another process. Probably not today, but we'll do our best. Okay, thank you. And Maria, the phrase is hearing no objections. We acclaim. This is like.
All right.
we
Well, I'm bringing
so
out
thank you, everybody.
I'm bringing out the drums and the trumpets, and in the absence of any objections, this has been adopted and accepted by all of us gratefully. All right.
Nothing wrong with teaching ourselves some method of governance.
Oh, for God's sake. All right.
Yes,
We're all
yes.
educable.
Democracy matters.
Okay. Yes. All right. Am I needed anymore?
I don't know.
Okay.
But
All
if
right.
you,
Well, I'm
but
here.
we will formally adjourn the business part of this meeting. I see your hand, Miss Cunningham, Miss Cecilia.
Yes,
but
I
we
just
do have
want-
some announcements. So the formal part of this meeting, however, if anyone is adjourned, so we'll stay on. Miss Cunningham, yes.
I just wanted to say we're gonna have to really adopt the Robert Rules of Order. The Robert Rules of Order to follow. That's very important.
Well,
Thank you so much.
Okay.
That's all I want.
Thank you both. That was a little crazy, but again, we tried to give everyone a chance.